are listening to the most comprehensive paranormal archive on the internet.
Welcome to Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight we are sharing experiences, true paranormal stories on the web. As always, you can find everything to do with the podcast at the website, and that is salsidoparanormal.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.com, and that includes links to all the episodes of the show, links to social media, ways to listen, and ways to support the show, as well as friends of the show, including Jen, the Arcane Observer, who has her own channel and is the co-host of this show. We'll be talking to her in a little bit here. And she's the co-host of the show on Saturdays when she can join me. And so I think that takes care of all of that. There's not much to put out there before the experiences for these kinds of shows. Just, of course, as always, if you all have experiences you'd like to share, you're more than welcome to email them to me or go to the website that I just mentioned and fill out the form there and either just share them there or talk about them and let me know if you'd like to be on the show. We do have a couple, at least one, maybe two listener experiences shows coming up here soon, and so those will be good. And yeah, I think that takes care of everything. So let's see. I think we can get started here. Jen, thank you for being here, as always.
It's good to be here. Looking forward to hearing what we're going to talk about tonight, and I'm just glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. And the fun part is I don't even know what we're going to talk about tonight because these are all just the random experiences I find online and put away and to use for shows in the future. So anyway, let me get to this first one here, and just so everyone knows what we usually do here, especially when we have Jen here with me, is I read a true story, and then we talk about it, and just keep on going like that until we get to an hour mark, or through tonight. It's going to be either an hour mark or six of these true stories, depending on which happens first. So this first one, let's see here. This first one, I scrolled too far down. There we go. This one says, I'm from the Netherlands, so my English can be a little bit rusty. I'm now almost 39. For the majority of my childhood, I lived in a house where a lot of paranormal things happened. Years ago, I had these two vivid dreams that I will remember forever. The first time, I dreamed about the location of my village, only it was like going back in time, like 1,500 years ago. That's quite a ways. The area looked completely different, with lots of grass, thick vegetation, and dense woodlands. Then I saw a small group of people dressed in old or ancient raggedy clothes, doing some sort of ritual. For some reason, I knew that spot would be the location of where my future house would be built. The second vivid dream about my house was that I was sitting in my living room, and next to me there was an elderly woman. I always have a hard time with that word, elderly, until I try to say it again. Elderly woman sitting in a chair. She had old dirty clothes, long black greasy hair, and a mean or angry facial expression. We had a conversation, but I can't remember what it was about. Suddenly she stopped talking, and her eyes turned pitch black. Then she stared at me without saying a word. At that moment, I felt a bit scared. I could sense, if I could talk, this woman was a negative or dark entity. Then the dream ended. And that's where that post ends. It's fascinating that both of these dreams revolve around the place where his house was or was going to be. I do wonder dark doesn't always mean negative, so I wonder if that second encounter was um, really supposed to be negative or not. I don't know, but yeah, happy to hear your thoughts on all that, Jen, as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, people have always wondered if when they're living in particular places, if they're picking up on the energy of the place. So I think it's possible that you could have dreams at a location that would reveal to you sort of maybe the kind of energy that had been there at some point or something. I mean, everywhere is ancient land,
Right,
absolutely everything. So, um, and contains such a multitude of events that have most likely happened there, on on every site, and of all life forms. So
right,
the depiction, though, of him seeing or, manifesting either as a dream state of an expression of something he was encountering, I mean, it's hard, it wouldn't be able to be told which one it was unless you were the one experiencing it, I think. So for him, if he thought, maybe, I don't know, that I'm not really sure there could be any kind of clarity about which one it was. But people have reported dreaming of locations and seeing past events that occurred there. So maybe something like that.
and I do wonder if those two were connected, if that woman was connected to some point in the past as well, and because again, she was sort of the writer described her as wearing similar clothes to what the people in the first dream were wearing. It seems like. So it could have been, I don't know, maybe even contacting ancestors, contacting maybe not even his ancestors, but just the consciousness of the people that live there, possibly,
Yeah. Oh, like maybe
as
the way
well.
that ideas come into like your headspace. So if you go into he saw an image of, I don't know why he would connect seeing those types of people at that location, you know, but it has some
Right.
kind of, once he thinks of it, once he conceives of the idea, everything else is going to kind of move around that. So it's because it's supposed to be more like a symbology, maybe. That's what I've
Yeah.
heard. So
Yeah, definitely could be. Well, let me get to the next one here. This one says, a few days ago, I went for a walk around the facility and saw how in the cargo truck there was a noise. No, I heard as if someone had climbed into the truck, as if they had hidden inside the cab. So I tried to shine the flashlight a bit, but I couldn't see anything. I approached the truck and checked it in the area where materials are loaded, and there was nothing. Then I focused my attention on the cab, which I climbed a small ladder to look inside, and there wasn't a single person inside. Then, out of nowhere, an air freshener shaped like a Christmas tree that was on the rearview mirror started spinning around like crazy in circles. I decided to walk away, but it did leave me thinking, what was making, what the heck was making it spin if the windows were closed? But that's not the only weird thing. Sometimes I feel like someone is following me. Sometimes I've felt that someone has touched my back, and I felt a bit watched out of nowhere. The last weird thing that happened was today, when, while I was looking at an area that doesn't have much light, I saw two giant eyes out of nowhere. I really thought it was something very strange, and I don't want to find an explanation, but I don't know if I'm going crazy or if that's normal. Because really, when I leave, I don't think that something paranormal will happen to me. I just go out like I'm relaxing. But I find it very strange that such strange things happen in this facility. I can't understand if I'm going crazy or if this is real. And that's where that one ends. I don't think they're
well,
going crazy if they're having these multiple things
I'd like to
happening.
know like what the facility is, I wonder,
Yeah,
you know?
that's the hard
Be
thing
very
with these
telling.
kind of posts.
Like, is it I wonder if it's like a hospital or if it's like some type of a facility, like, a military installment. Like, so what kind of facility? It's really tell us a lot more too. But I mean, things happening on locations, like it's interesting that they point out it's not everywhere. So they wanted to tell a story about having experiences at this facility, not
Right.
like at their house and everywhere they go. So it's one of those kinds of stories, and I really wonder about the history of the location, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, they said a vehicle or it's some kind of like almost sound like a semi truck or something like that, or like I don't know, some place where they have vehicles that move materials around or something. So, but yeah, the it does sound like there's something. I mean, maybe one or more things going on there. Because I mean, you have images or you have the object being manipulated, that air freshener spinning around in a cab of a vehicle where it's not running. Even if it was running, I mean, you have to have a lot of air blowing at the thing to make it spin around. Um, and then the feeling of being touched in the back doesn't sound like they didn't say there's people all around them either when they're there. Almost makes me wonder if it's like a security guard type
It's kind of what I
um,
wondered. Like maybe if I was
situation.
thinking, I imagine something like that's what it does sound like that. Like they're doing, kind of a surveillance or something of an area.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know, but then the eyes, it's fascinating that they only saw eyes, uh, and they were large. So a lot of stuff going on there. And funny, we were talking about this the other night around Trouble Minds, one of those shows where I mentioned in the show that so many posts I find for this show, they start or end with someone saying, am I going crazy, or I think I'm going crazy because of the experiences they're having. So here is an example of that. And
Right.
but
Yeah, like
yeah,
the eyes aspect is really like seeing the eye shine is what I'm assuming they're seeing it at night, like a glowing eyes. And
right.
so, I mean, I wonder if, what kind of species has that effect, like the eyes shine like that. And I've looked into this before because, of course, I've seen, glowing eyes before, as my very first initial sort of unworldly experience. And I've heard that maybe even, I mean, like it's not just like it's animals that can see at night typically have eye shine. So it might mean that, you know, depending if it's like white eye shine, I don't know what red would mean or anything like that, but I've heard that white or like a yellowish eye shine, if you see that, it means the animal can see you really well. Like they have basically night vision. And then, of course, other eye shine is like red, and people have seen like almost green. Yeah, but there's certain types of animals and species that have that. But I wonder about that too, because the glowing eyes and seeing the eye shine would mean also too it would be like almost a physical, like something physical. I would imagine. I would think. You know.
Yeah, hard to say. And I mean, maybe that is something. There is some actual normal animal there that they just happen to see it, but then
Or
to
no,
them it
like
built
some type of cryptid or some type of entity
right,
that
that too.
has that sort of, I don't know if you were going to say that, but it doesn't necessarily have to be it's basically just a clue that there could be some type of being that is in those woods or something that has that kind of the same eye shine you would see amongst those types of the species that do have that color of eye shine, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah. Yep, it does. Yeah, so it sounds like a lot going on there. Um, I always wonder too, I mean, when you get these single accounts of a person from one place, I wish that the stigma wasn't still around in to some degree to where they couldn't ask people about their own experiences in that same place and maybe get more verification and all that, but you never know, what the dynamic is between people in a place, so maybe they don't feel like they can. So,
Yeah, I
but
mean, if he
yeah,
that all does matter. I mean, like if he's working there too, and his job is to watch for these things, and to watch for anything unusual, maybe that's why it's so amplified, or just working there
right,
anyway. It sounds like he's got a lot of time to sort of view the environment, regardless of whatever he's doing there.
yeah, yep. Well, moving on to the next one here. This one says it is currently 12:08 a.m. And then they give a date. It's actually last month. And they say, I live in a home that was built in the year 1900. The previous tenants told me that there was an old man ghost upstairs and kids downstairs. I've not witnessed the old man, but in the last few months, my daughter and I have noticed two girls, one older teenager and one younger. I never told her, the daughter I'm guessing, about what I saw, but instead I wrote it in my notes app on my phone because I didn't want to scare her. She has no access to my phone. I was out of the house when she messaged me for the first time, late in May, early June, and said that there were two girl ghosts standing in her doorway. She gave me the descriptions of what she saw. It matched my notes app description. We don't feel threatened. It just makes us both jumpy. How would I know the ghost's intentions? They only show up at certain times and seem to watch us, and that's where that one ends.
That's really interesting. I mean, the way that they were able to see, obviously it's like a cohabitation scenario with these spirits. So in this house, it would mean that they're living right alongside them and encountering each other on a regular basis. I would imagine that there's a lot of other experiences that maybe weren't disclosed in that account. But I don't know the past history of the houses or who lived there. Obviously, they're referencing to a past family that might live there. Since it's not something that's followed them from place to place, that in that case, I would think it was ancestral in some way. But maybe it's linked to the actual property and that they're kind of very strong presences that have energy from some sort of source at that space, separate from the people. It's like, because if it was the people, if they were the source, it would have been something they carried with them. There's possibility that there's some sort of exchange going on that allows these beings to manifest, these spirits perhaps of the deceased. There's so many questions because we don't know the nature of it,
Right. And it is amazing that the previous tenant told them about these same figures. So they're not just appearing to one
Oh,
family.
I missed that part.
Oh, yeah.
That
Yep.
it had been seen by previous tenants telling them. I thought it was a family member that lived there. Okay. So, see, I mean, it's linked to the property. Probably.
Right.
But is it past tenants that passed away and came back to the location, or did some type of event sort of hold the ghost of those people there? Like, is it an actual intelligent species or like intelligent, non-biological, spirit, like a ghost? Or
Right.
or is it just like a frozen one of the idea of, sort of a moment in time being captured? I don't know.
Yeah, especially if they're just watching and there's nothing else happening. If they only appear sometimes here and there, it could be residual, even if it does feel like the people there are being watched. I mean, if you have some figure looking at you, it may seem like you're being watched, even if it's just residual. But then it could be intelligent. It's hard to say with just that bit of information there.
Yeah, both could be true at the same time. Both could be true.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's hard not to do that, to try to compartmentalize and say that these must be separate things. It could be true at the same time.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah, well, let me get to the next one here. We're probably not going to be doing a super long show tonight, but moving on to the next one here. This one says, it was about 3:20 a.m., and I was on the phone with my boyfriend. I went downstairs to go to the bathroom and get some water, and just remembered my cat left her toy outside. So I turned on my flash on my phone to look outside the garden door window. Then I heard a hushed hello in a woman's voice, but it was still clear as day. So spot. Okay, I stopped for about 5 seconds and then said out loud, "What was that?" Then my boyfriend replied saying, "Someone just said hello." I was so spooked because he was on the phone, and even he heard it. So I just ran for the stairs and back to my room. This is the first time something like this has ever happened, and I'm still scared since I live alone. I didn't have anything playing. I guess they mean on their phone. I also have a dog, and she would sometimes randomly start barking in the middle of the night, but I didn't think anything of it, as she's still just a puppy. And that's where that one ends. So was the dog picking up on something that the person wasn't?
Right? Maybe.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
it's hard to know.
the disembodied voices, that's a very common. I mean, I've heard that too. And people have different explanations of what it could be. Some people think that there's like beings that can imitate people's voices. I don't know if that would be the case or if it's, oh, my internet might be a little funny. But yeah,
That's okay.
there's no telling exactly, what it sounds like. It's too bad that it scares her. I mean, it makes sense,
Right.
but it should be some comfort that someone else heard it. But that could also be the source of a little bit of the fear of it, you know.
Yeah. That
There is
verification
no
is good but
answer.
bad. Right.
Yeah. And so the person never gets any kind of closure about what it was. It's always on the cusp like that, you know, of no, there never is a resolution about what was. So,
Right. And that is fascinating that it was loud enough to be heard on the phone too. So
yeah,
with the voice going through on the phone, I mean that's some power to it.
maybe she even heard it in the phone. I wonder if,
Could be.
I don't know.
Yeah,
But
could have used the phone to make itself heard better. Definitely. So, yeah, a lot of possibilities there. Let's see here. So we're gonna get to the next one here, and I'm gonna apologize, everyone. This is just right lately. My eyes have been really bothering me, so I can't do a hour show tonight. I can already tell it's just not gonna be happening. But so we'll get to these next two here, and then we'll be done. This one says, my daughter lived in a 5-bedroom, 5-bathroom house during college. Upon this land where the house now stood, there had been a small house which was torn down, and this house built upon it. Right across the street was an old cemetery. When my daughter came home for the weekend, her clothes and hair, everything she owned, had a distinct smell which never went away. Her clothes carried the smell even after they were washed, though fainter. It would be months of an item that hadn't been worn in a while, and the smell was still there. It was a pleasant smell, but reminded me of something very old. Old house, old wood, old, let's spell again. Old something. The smell would permeate everything. She had items long after she moved out, which still had the smell. Eventually the smell would go away, but it would be months. All her roommates noticed the smell. It was everywhere, in the communal living room, kitchen, everywhere. It was not just in one room. The smell did not come and go. It was constant. It was like it was in the walls. No one had potpourri. It was not an air freshener smell. It was not an air filter smell. It was not a floral smell. It was not a candle smell. It was not a cleaning product smell. And everyone had their own bedroom and bathroom, so it wasn't one person's product. She lived there for a year, and the smell never got fainter. It would hit like a brick wall as soon as one walked into the house. It was not a bad smell. It was strong and noticeable, but not chemically strong. Does anyone have an explanation as to the smell, of which no one could find the source? I am so tempted to visit that house and ask them if the smell is still there. And that's where that one ends.
Okay, so I live by two funeral homes where I live. There's if I just walk like a block away, on my way to go to work, for example, if I were to ride my bike, just a block away, I'll run into one funeral home, a block from me. And then across the street, about a little bit further up, about a block up, there's another one. And it just so happens that way. And when I go through there, many times, I don't know if this has anything to do with that, I will encounter this smell that is used, I assume, in the funerary processing of individuals. And the smell, I can smell it even at my house sometimes. It is so pronounced. And it's a smell that I think they use to cover up the other smell. And I kind of wonder if, did it say that there was a cemetery nearby there?
I believe it did. Let me check at the very beginning here.
So if there was,
yes.
If it's possible that there was like a funerary, if it was used in some way, that smell, I don't know what it is or how it's dispensed or what, but it is extremely potent smell. And for the longest time, even I wouldn't be going around that direction where these funeral homes are, but I would smell it around other areas around where I live, within a block or so radius, and never knew what it was until I realized one day early on, pretty quickly, so it didn't last so long before I realized it. If I went right by that place, of course, the smell intensified. Like it was as if it was, it was obvious it's emitting from there, from both of them. And so I wonder if and it seems like it would have to be a very permeating smell. I'm not saying that's what it is, but that's immediately what I thought.
Yeah, and it's odd that it's in that one part of that house. It sounded like what they were saying was everywhere, but not in the bedrooms. It's almost like the sense I got from it was like it was in all the communal areas, but not in the individual bedrooms that the people had there, which I thought was
I
odd.
don't know. That is odd.
So, but then it would still latch onto their clothes once they walk through those areas. So, yeah, I don't know. That is an odd one as far as what could make that happen that way. It's almost like it's a physical effect, but it's an odd one.
Yeah.
Yep. So, yeah, I don't know. Well, we'll get to this last one here, and then we'll be done for the show here this time. This one, another decent size one here. This one says, the house I grew up in was pretty haunted. It's a pretty old house, built before the 1900s. I can't find the exact year, unfortunately, and is a mid-terraced. Okay, apparently that's the name of a type of home, I guess. It's very likely that all the other houses on the row were built at the same time. There were always weird things going on. Toys would randomly go off on their own. I remember one of my younger siblings had this little toy keyboard, which would always go off on its own, even after the batteries had been replaced, as well as the little house toy I had when I was younger. We had a desktop computer in the living room, which would randomly make weird sounds, like there was a power surge within the machine. At night, you could sometimes hear footsteps on the landing and banging sounds from the downstairs when everyone was in bed. You go downstairs the next day, and everything was right where you left it the day before. It made going to the bathroom in the middle of the night really eerie, and I especially hated going to the kitchen in the middle to the kitchen at night, as I always felt like I was being watched. Some of the scarier things that have happened, though, were to my mom and dad. One night, my dad was in bed, and he heard what sounded like a bag full of money being thrown across the landing. According to him, he said, "Do it again." Oh boy. And one of his pens threw itself across the room, and he spent a couple of hours hiding under his sheets after that. Not sure what possessed him to say that to a freaking ghost, but there you are, and they say that there. That's not me. Not long after, my mom was startled awake by a blood-curdling scream right down her ear. That's not fun. I will point out that my parents aren't ones for making things up and have always maintained these experiences, maintained these events to be true to this day. My mom also has some other weird paranormal experiences when she was younger, but that's another story. The amount of paranormal activity in the house ebbed and flowed over time. What was weird, though, was that our neighbors on the same row also had paranormal activity, and their activity also varied the same as ours. So if we were having less activity, so were the neighbors. I am a skeptic with most things, but I will say that after growing up in that house, I do firmly believe that there are ghosts and certain energies. Maybe it's just a science we don't understand yet. But there's absolutely something more to this world that we cannot perceive most of the time. And that's where that one ends. So you have two
Well, they seem
houses
to,
there.
yeah, they seem to have a pretty good grasp themselves of what's going on with that. I mean, as much as anyone could, but, interacting with it in a way, asking to, do it again and try to see if it would, if it could be replicated by some type of intelligent force. But they seem kind of like, even though they don't know, just like us, that, they have a grasp of what's going on with it.
Yeah, and their family did, because, yeah, that's a lot going on. But it's good that they were able to get some kind of verification from their neighbors, too. Of course, then the question is why? Is there an other question with that, too, is how many houses along that row had activity? Was it just those two? Why those two? Just those two, if that's the case. But either way, yeah, it sounds like. And at first, if it was just the electronics acting weird, you could say just random energy fields doing whatever, because I do think that can happen. But when you have footsteps and other sounds, when you have a reaction when the dad says "do it again," like that, that seems like there's more there. There's something intelligent there happening with that house.
100%. I think that's what it's trying to, convey. No doubt.
Right. Well, that is going to do it for tonight. Thank you all for being here, and sorry for the shorter episode, but we will see how things go moving forward. And thank you, Jen, for being here as always as well.
Yeah, it's good to be here. I know I completely understand. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you. And everyone, thank you as well. And everyone take care, and I will talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal, and have a great night.